Hey guys, welcome to Reality Check. I'm Huang Jiyuan. This is Godzilla, a fictional monster, perhaps the world's most famous one. It was born from Japan's experience with the two nuclear bombs. But Japan might just have created a real one. Starting August 24th, Japan began discharging nuclear-contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean. At least for the next 30 years, we are going to see nuclear materials pouring into the sea. Already there are uproars around the world. In Japan, people from 375 civil groups gathered in Fukushima's Iwaki city to demand an immediate stop to the releasing the water. In South Korea, around 5,000 protesters gathered in Seoul to criticize the South Korean government's endorsement of the release plan. Hundreds of people, including the former Fijian Prime Minister, marched in the Fijian capital to protest against the discharge. Germany's Minister for Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection, Steffi Lemke, said that she cannot welcome the release of the treated water. Thailand's Department of Fishery has intensified its scrutiny of seafood products imported from Japan, and China imposed a total ban on the aquatic products from Japan.
国が国民と契約したものを勝手に廃棄するような行為は絶対許せないし、それが国民だけではなくて世界中の皆さんへの裏切り行為だと私は思っていますので、絶対に反対です。
日本だけのものじゃないっていうことで海洋放出を今強行するっていうのはおかしいなって思っています。
그리고 반드시 일본을 상대로 국제해양법 재판소에 반드시 제소를 해서 일본이 두 번 다시 이런 반인류적인 핵테러를 못하도록 반드시 막아야 한다고 생각하고.
One thing we have to recognize is that the science on this is hard and highly contentious. Many are using the IAEA's report as the basis to justify the discharge. However, it's exactly the fact that there is no definitive answer that raises concerns. These are simulations of the diffusion. You can see that it doesn't take a long time for the water or the material to cover the vast majority of space between Asia and North America. The Asia-Pacific region in total is the world's largest producer of fish. It accounts for more than 50% of the world's catch of marine and river fish, and 89% of global aquaculture. 8 of the top 10 aquaculture-producing economies are in this region. And the western and central part of the Pacific Ocean specifically accounts for over 50% of global tuna catch. For a country that has intimate experience with the effects of nuclear materials, Japan should be well aware that its long-term ramifications are unpredictable, especially when it interacts with living organisms.
Well, I think the Fukushima water release with the contaminated water is still contaminated. It should not be released into the Pacific because there it will harm in the food chain.
Эта вода, она пресная. Несмотря на то, что, говорят, ее будут смешивать с морской, все равно она будет легче, чем соленая вода с солями, а значит, она будет на поверхности. Мало кто об этом говорит, но за счет того, что она будет на поверхности, она будет испаряться, вода. И вот эта третья вода, она будет проливаться над Японией, над Кореей, над Китаем, над нашим Дальним Востоком, попадать в речные системы, в озера. Ну, а, соответственно, откуда мы питьевую воду берем?
Even in Japan, people find the government's rationale lacking. More than 80% of the Japanese public said the government's explanation regarding the matter is insufficient. So Japan is, in essence, releasing an uncontrollable, unpredictable, and dangerous thing into the world's largest ocean without knowing what could happen.
This is really a 19th century sort of cheap and dirty, out of jurisdiction, out of sight, out of mind, dilution is the solution to pollution kind of approach. And arguably, I think this is also in contravention of Japan's legal obligations under the London Convention against Dumping of Wastes in the Marine Environment and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, all of which together quite explicitly prohibit dumping into the marine environment of land-based sources of pollution, and specifically prohibiting the discharge of radioactive material into the ocean.
If you break a law, you pay a price for it. In Japan, residents of Fukushima, Miyagi, and Ibaraki prefectures and fishery workers are suing the Japanese government and the Tokyo Electric Power Company, demanding the seizing of contaminated waters released into the sea. According to Kyodo News, a Japanese citizens group has already submitted a letter to the local authority, accusing Japanese Prime Minister and the executive president of Tokyo Electric Power Company. In the letter, they are saying that other than tritium, there are other radioactive matters that cannot be cleaned up, and that it's going to cause harm to people's health, especially those consuming aquatic products. Japan should know that it's not just the Japanese residents that will take action. Countries affected by the water release all have the obligation to stop damaging materials from harming their citizens. People working in tourism industry, catering industry, fishery, and anything aquatic culture related have the obligation to seek reparation for the chaos caused by Japan's actions. And it is all of these people's right to defend themselves, even against Godzilla, fictional or not.